validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. Oh, my goodness. Steven, you asked me to do this every now and again. I try. This is not what it's supposed to look like. I need to get me a green screen one day, my guy. But you asked me at least once a week, every now and again, when I remember to throw up the old school backdrop that we used to use. So, I try to throw it in there. It ain't doing what I thought it was going to do. Either way, we're here 7 nights a week. And we do a different topic every night of the week, but we do not let the sun rise without going live. It's just that we don't always start on time, and that's what we ask you guys to like and subscribe, mash those reaction buttons, and hit the notification button so that you're notified when we go live. Then what we do is we ask you guys to double check what we got going on in the membership. I have revamped the way I do things with the membership. So now, instead of me trying to stack a bunch of things in the membership at a short period of time, is as I create the information for the show, I throw something in the membership for that show. So even though the show might not have released yet, the information related to that show is going to be released in a timely fashion. So now you're going to start seeing regular rollouts of upcoming information before the show releases, which actually benefits you guys with your abilities to see what we've got on, and then have advanced notice of what to do about it. Now, the benefit is that we still we're like, last time we were doing from past to present, we're like February 13th. So we're still trying to get that information into the membership as well. But um, all of the current information that's going into the membership should keep you up to speed while we get some of the older stuff um, into the membership, which will have us doing like 2 releases a day once we get caught up with the stuff that we got going on in February. Now, we went through all of the information that's been happening thus far, and that led us to a 3-part discussion that we're going to be having on Monday. Monday, we're actually, because like I said, we do different discussions every night of the week. Sunday tonight is questions and comments from the fans. So you guys have questions appropriately structured about what you guys got going on in your lives, and then I answer your questions. Then we have on Monday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's about business and politics. So on Monday, we talk about how politics negatively impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money. And the 3-part process that we have for Monday tomorrow is one, all of the tax cuts that are going to be helping out big business, and how they're going to be modifying the student loan information, the payback scenario, since that's new information that's coming out. And then I believe that the emissions that we were talking about that would directly impact your ability to buy and or own a car in California, and how that got repealed because there was supposed to be something set in motion by California legislation that was supposed to make mono gas powered vehicles obsolete by 2035, where they would either be hybrid or mono electric by 2035, and a stop got put to that. So we're going to be talking about those things on Monday. Now, Tuesday, we talk about different ways to make, save, invest money, budget money, other such things to that matter. Different ways to look at the money, different ways to make decisions as it relates to money, so that you're not negatively impacted by your decisions, because your decisions cost you, whether you believe that or not. It actually does cost you. So we try to help you guys out with that stuff. Then we have on Wednesdays different countries around the world that you can invest in and potentially live in, and preferably cheaper than where you are now, especially if you're living in America. And then we start talking about on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We give you guys detailed information about self-improvement, self-development, negotiations, socializations, building your brand, relationship topics. We cover a lot of things. Then we start talking about raises, promotions, retirement, forced retirement, termination, severance packages, the whole 9 yards. We cover ways to improve your personal life as well as ways to improve your professional life. And then we talk to you guys about your 20 and 30-year plan. Special shout out to OG Kicks. So when we start talking about your 20 and 30-year plan, we talk about the things that you should be doing. If you're not doing it yet, we talk about the things that you should be doing that should be able to help you guys improve your ability to have a future that is less stressful than what it is right now, improving your financial life by putting away money that you don't need, reallocating those funds to different locations so that your money is making more money for you, and you're in a position where you're capable of seeing a financial reprieve where you're not living from paycheck to paycheck. You actually start finding yourself in a position where your money is able to cover the spread. So now you also have multiple sources of income, not because you have multiple jobs, but because you're putting your money in places where your money is making more money for you in different ways, right? So this is a very huge full spectrum discussion platform that is all focused directly towards self-improvement, self-development, and financial improvement, financial development. It's a 4-part process, right? So today, since we're doing questions and comments from the fans, we've got some comments. Some people are going to be commenting in. You guys can feel free to chime in on these comments. I'm going to say keep it professional. I know that there should have been a pop-up that came up and told you guys to stay on topic and argue the facts of the discussion, not devalue or degrade the person that delivered the facts. So anybody that calls somebody else stupid because they put up a comment, you're going to get blocked. You're like instant man. So we had that happen yesterday where somebody just jumped in and called I think he called me stupid, as a matter of fact. And simply by saying that, it was like, whoop, you're out, because we're standing on negotiable expectations for behavior. You can disagree with a fact based on your feelings, and I completely understand that. But if you disagree with those feelings, you can prove it by providing more information to dismantle the claim, the argument itself, but just trying to devalue the topic because you don't like the person. That's not what we're doing on the show. So we're going to start because we got quite a few of them that are pretty long today. So we're going to start and we're going to listen to some of these. We're going to put our 2 cents in and hopefully give you guys a different opportunity to address certain scenarios in a completely different fashion. So let's get started with the first one.
I'm trapped in a loop with my girlfriend. I want to break up every time I think about it, but I can't bring myself to do it. I need to get this off my chest and get some perspective because I feel like I'm losing my mind. I'm stuck in a brutal cycle with my girlfriend, and I don't know how to break out of it. The core issue comes down to a guy named Raid. For a long time, my girlfriend has continually crossed lines with him, made excuses for him, and hidden things from me. Every time I learned about them meeting up, texting, or keeping secrets, it crushed my ability to trust her. To make it worse, I found out she actually dated or kissed him in the past before me, and she hid that entire truth from me. Whenever I try to bring up how much the situation hurts, she turns it into an exhausting, hours-long technical debate or tries to minimize it, rather than just understanding my pain. This whole situation has absolutely broken me mentally and physically. The constant stress and checking up on things has given me physical symptoms. I've been dealing with severe stomach aches, constant nausea, and throwing up purely from the anxiety and the weight of the lies. My head is completely fried. I'm emotionally exhausted every single night, and I've reached a point where I feel physically sick just looking at my phone. Deep down, when I'm on my own thinking clearly, my gut tells me I need to break up. I know I can't build a future or marry someone I don't trust. But the second I think about actually losing her, I completely freeze. In the past, when we weren't dating, I felt a massive wave of depression, like my life was totally over and I had no one to turn to. To avoid that terrifying void, I keep staying. I'm trading the sharp pain of a breakup for the slow, daily ache of carrying zero trust. Just tonight, we had another massive emotional blowout over text about the history and the timeline. At the end of it, she texted saying, "We're okay and I'm happy you mentioned again." Immediately, my brain felt a hit of relief because the threat of fight was gone, but then I instantly started panicking and overanalyzing her exact words. What does she mean by again? Which shows how paranoid I become. I even almost had my brother send a breakup text from me while I slept just so I wouldn't have to face the agony of doing it myself. Right now, I've told myself I'm staying, but I've drawn a strict line in the sand. If anything happens again, if she hides a text, meets up with a guy, or if I find out another lie from the past, it is officially over. But honestly, I've reached a point where a part of me secretly wants her to cheat or do something terrible on purpose. I feel like if we end on horrible terms, it would be an escape hatch. It would take the guilt away, make the decision for me, and let me just be angry instead of sad and conflicted. How do I find the strength to walk away when the fear of being lonely is paralyzing me, and the stress is literally making me sick? Has anyone else survived a loop like this? Upvote 206, downvote 306, go to comment, share.
That is, well, you got a lot of stuff going on with that one. Okay, so here's the long and the short of what we got on here. Whatever relationship she's got with the other guy is a lot more pronounced than it should be, considering that she's supposed to be in a committed relationship with you. She does not value how you feel about the situation, which is why she is willing to minimize your feelings so that she does not have to be held accountable for her actions in your relationship. Men do this to women a lot of times as well. It is my observation that once you realize that you are not happy in the relationship that you are in, and you have already made it clear to your romantic partner that you are not happy in the relationship, if they do not care enough about how you feel about the situation to change so that you no longer feel that way, then it is time for you to leave. The longer you stay, the worse it gets. Because if they devalue you in front of your face, they know that you know that they don't care. You know that they know that you know that they don't care. They're going to continue to do it, and it's going to get more severe as time goes on. Because again, She is there for the financial security. She's not there for the emotional connection with you. Whatever emotional connection she's getting with the other guy, that validates her. So you're a financial safety net. She doesn't have to leave you to be happy with the other guy if you're still willing to pay her bills. Likewise, you're with her for the physical connection, the longingness to be included into a path that you have no control over. And just so that you're not alone, you're willing to stay in a situation that's not healthy for you while investing in something that's not healthy for you. I talked about this yesterday. It's like putting $1 million on black every time, and it's always rolling red. Even though you know it's going to roll red, you're still putting $1 million on black. You're throwing away resources, knowing that it's not going to end well. At some point, you have to cut your losses, walk away from the table, stop placing bets, because it's not going to change. Your partner's not going to improve. Your partner is not going to discontinue her connections and involvements with the other guy. As a result, you lingering doesn't benefit you. Now, a lot of people find themselves in a type of relationship where they want out, but they don't want to walk away and be socially scrutinized. So they try to have a knockout, drag down argument where we broke up because of his or her behavior, because they acted irrationally. I was trying to talk to them and they blew up on me and started throwing things and this, that, and the third, and that be the excuse to leave. A lot of the times women do that to men. They'll start a fight with you over the sugar not being in the cabinet. That fight turns into a 2.5-hour argument. She starts throwing stuff. You might get mad and throw something back. Doesn't matter how many things she threw at you. But as soon as you throw something back at her, that's going to be the story that she's going to tell. Oh my God, how dare you? She's going to pack her bags and go and stay by her auntie's house because now she can tell her auntie that you and her had a huge argument and you started throwing stuff at her. And that validates her ability to get a safe place, and then she can go stay somewhere else. And when people do this, they're only doing this to save face because they wanted to leave, but they did not have the courage to leave, and they did not have an excuse to leave. Your excuse to leave is that you want to leave. Your excuse to leave doesn't have to be that the other person's a piece of shit. Your excuse to leave doesn't have to be that the other person is abusive. Your excuse to leave is that you, for whatever reason that impacts your ability to want to leave, have no desire to continue staying in this relationship. And that's really all you need to get the fuck out of Dodge. Now, if it's your house, you have a lot more issue than if it was her house. Because if it was her house, you could just pack your personal belongings and leave the key on the table and just go somewhere else. Stay in a hotel for a couple of days till you find yourself an apartment. But if it's your house, now you have to convince her to leave voluntarily or go through the eviction process where you're going to spend 90 days of chaos trying to get her removed from your house, because most people right now that are already in a cohabitative situation doesn't have the capabilities due to the girlfriend contract they didn't sign to withdraw or retract their ability to maintain residency at the termination of this contract. Because if you had a girlfriend contract there where your stay was reduced to a 48-hour notice, and you gave it a 48-hour notice 2-3 weeks ago, at this point, your right to stay here has been rescinded with notice, and you're supposed to remove yourself and your property, and you have a legal period of time to remove that. And after that period of time, yes, I can take action in local courts and other such things. But I mean, you're not here. That's a wrap, right? It's a little easier. It's not a piece of cake to get somebody put out here. So the girlfriend contract is not going to make it back. But if you have a contract that says that she has rescinded her right to be here, she's received legal written notice, and law enforcement starts getting involved, law enforcement can't say, oh, well, we can't do X, Y, and Z because we've got a contract. We've got a document that says that your authorization to reside at this residence has been revoked, and you are legally required to remove yourself from this scenario. So it's a domestic situation, but the domestic situation can be resolved a lot easier if you've already got the paperwork involved. Now, since you don't have the paperwork involved yet, you're going to have to go through the legal process. And that's probably something you don't want to do because it's cost out of pocket. You don't have the money, all of this other stuff. And that's part of the reason why you don't want to leave. But dude, I mean, if you leave her the apartment, you turn off everything that's in your name and move out and get yourself another apartment, you can do that too. Because if you two cohabitate into the same apartment and you don't want to spend all the costs and legal fees to put her out of that apartment, you don't own the apartment, you just rent it. All you have to do is give your landlord a 30-day notice to vacate, let them know that you're removing yourself from the property if you are on the lease, and then turn off everything that belongs to you and transfer it over to the new apartment and just move out. You don't got to tell her shit. And then when they come and turn off the lights, the water, the gas, and she's wondering why shit ain't working in the house, you've already left to go move into the new place. And then she's just sitting there holding the bag. You either blocked her number, you're not talking to her anymore. These are situations where you can just remove yourself from her presence without having to go through the stress of, battling it out in court. But again, you've got that girlfriend contract. It clearly itemizes all the stuff that you're allowed to take with you when you leave. So if you leave her the apartment and you take all of your valuables, she can't say you took something you weren't supposed to take because it's listed on this document right here, and you just walk off with it. And that's it. And you can leave while she's off with her boyfriend. I'm gonna call him the boyfriend. You leave while she's off, gallivanting with her boyfriend. When she comes back, you're not home. That's what women do when they're in an abusive relationship, is that they wait till the husband leaves. They wait till the boyfriend leaves, specifically on a long venture where they're gone 2-3 days, gone for the weekend, gone on a 2-week trip at work. And, while he's gone, she packs up the whole house, cleans everything out, and disappears. And then when she comes back to the house, there'll be nothing there. That's what will happen. Or in those situations, like she'll dip out on the husband, and when the husband comes back from work, she's gone. The whole house is cleaned out. Right? Sometimes they don't even lock the door. Leave the door sitting open. When you come back, all the lights are off, the door's sitting open. You walk in there, there's nothing there. Right? That's what they do. So under these circumstances, bro, like you can draw a line in the sand to say one more again. But let's be real, bro. If she's been doing this for a number of months, she didn't already TKO the situation. There's no reason for you to give her yet another chance. Because if first and foremost, she should not have a ex as a current best friend. She should not have a person that she's previously slept with as a person that she's in an acquaintanceship with while she's in a relationship with a stable, a dominant. Because you're supposed to be in a date-to-marriage relationship. So if she's still communicating with her fuck buddy from back in the day, your relationship doesn't hold out, period. Right? So it doesn't matter if they kiss, it doesn't matter if they slept together, it doesn't matter if they walked into each other on a shower or whatever. What matters is that they have the type of relationship that's not supposed to be sustained while she's in a relationship with you. And if she doesn't respect that, then that's it. The relationship is dead. Because how can you marry the chick if she doesn't value the relationship before marriage? And we got to understand, we have a lot of guys that do not have enough value in themselves, which is why we were covering this shit on the show yesterday. A lot of guys that don't have enough value in themselves to stand on their non-negotiable expectations for behavior and say, look, this is what I expect from my girlfriend because I only date to marry. And if I'm dating to marry, this is the type of behavior I want my wife to behave like. So if that's not what my girlfriend is doing right now, if she is going to be in a long-term relationship with me, she's going to have to learn how to incorporate these things into her behavior pattern so that she will qualify to be the wife. Truth be told, if you had a wife criteria, what you expect a wife to do, and you did like a 30 or 50 line segment of all the things you expect a wife to do, and then as she does them, check it off the list. As she makes that regular behavior pattern, check it off the list. If you were dating a girl and she hits you up with the why haven't we gotten married yet? Well, because you've only covered 38 out of 52 of the things I expect my wife to do on a regular basis. So until you're able to incorporate all 52 things I expect my wife to do on a regular basis, I can't marry you. You're setting a dynamic that is non-negotiable expectations for behavior that if she doesn't perform, then she's not wife material. And if she's not wife material, I'm not going to marry her. FX Trader says the guy needs to lease the furniture and everything else just in case. Well, leasing the furniture is a waste of money. But if he's going to move somewhere else and he does like a rent-to-own scenario, he can literally leave everything that he has no value to, everything that he doesn't feel like carrying, and he could just leave with the clothes on his back and then get him a new apartment and then rent-to-own the furniture in his apartment and just start over, you know. And you're right, he doesn't have to worry about nothing that she's got going on. Trader says most women today will not accept the male being the leader of the family. Tell me about it. You know, how can you convince them to change their attitudes? First and foremost, any man of value to a woman is they're gonna have to change in order for the man to open his wallet. Men are chasing sex right now, and since men are chasing sex, men are willing to pay the cost to get into her pants. As a result, women have been conditioned by society to sell sex in order to get stuff. So they're going to spend a lot of money to look attractive. They're going to wear scantily clad outfits to look attractive, so that the more guys that want to have sex with her, the more guys are going to offer her stuff, and now it's auctioned off to the highest bidder. So the guy who's willing to spend the most money on her in the shortest period of time is going to be the guy she ends up sleeping with. Now, that guy ends up being a reoccurring paycheck, and she becomes a reoccurring sex partner, and we call that in modern society dating. That's not true dating, but that's the way that the society is. Now, he has no authority under this dynamic because he came for the sex and she came for the money, and she controls the product and he's leasing the product. So if he doesn't do what she wants, he doesn't get his hands on a product. It's just like a drug addict addicted to a drug. There's no control over the distribution of the product because the distributor controls the product. So now the distributor can dictate terms, which ultimately means in order for a man to be able to maintain his position as the leader of the household, he has to recognize that his estate is the most valuable thing that the woman will get out of the relationship, and therefore he must dictate those terms absent of expectations of sex. And if he does it that way, now it is not about the sex. The sex is guaranteed. It's not about the sex. What are you going to do to get my house, my car, my money, my jewelry, my trips around the world, my vacations to Tahiti? What are you going to do to get that? Because sex isn't enough. And when a man starts putting his foot down on that, now you're monitoring her the way the boss monitors the employees and say, hey, if I'm going to be paying you a salary, you're going to have to put in some fucking work. And these are the things that I expect you to do. You got time to lean, you got time to clean, right? That's what the boss tells us. We get put on a 90-day probationary period, and if we don't perform, we get fired. That 90-day probation period is a 90-day honeymoon phase. If she's not performing, we're breaking up, right? So at the end of the day, no employer has ever leased an employee to not perform on the job. So if we stop treating this situation like I'll do anything for sex and start treating this situation like you will do what it takes to get what I've got, then you will regain your position as an authority in your relationships. Michael says, then stay single until you know what you want. Sign here. Well, that is going to be how you keep women under control, because if she's not willing to sign on the dotted line and agree to your terms, then at the end of the day, she can stay single. You can vet so many bad relationships, because if she's not willing to sign on in writing, in black and white, to your expectations, the same way, like I told you guys before, the Big Bang Theory, where Sheldon had the roommate contract with Leonard, and that was like a prenuptial agreement in and of itself. But the fact is that if he wasn't able to sign on that document, you can't be here. Plain and simple. And that particular type of dynamic, and truthfully, this is the funny thing, now that I think about it, Sheldon did a contract with his wife before he married her. And in one episode, he actually drafted a contract with Leonard and Penny so that they could have it was basically how to interact with one another and how to treat each other. It's not truly actionable in court, because family court divides estates. So who uses the couch and who has the refrigerator and who takes the TV, that's what the courts will decide. The division of assets, which person gets the car and who gets the debt, that's what the courts decide. But if we have terms and conditions of how to treat one another, and then you start acting out of line, wait, we have page 30, paragraph 6, section 8, you said that you agreed to perform in this fashion. I forgot the name of that girl, but when Sheldon said something stupid, the girl laughed, nobody thought it was funny, and Penny said, do you really think it's funny? And she said, oh, but that's in the contract, I have to laugh, right? It doesn't have to be funny. I agreed to laugh at his stupid jokes. So whenever he says something and nobody else laughs, I'm gonna laugh, even if it's not funny, right? Now, Trader says, you're right. The relationship cannot be all about sex. But and that requires men to change their logic and reasoning. And until they do, they're not going to be successful. So dude might get sex from this girl every now and again, and because of that, even though she's sleeping with another dude, it's hard for a man to think about finding another woman because you got to go through thousands of no's before you get one yes. But the fact is that if the one yes that you have ain't shit, it is not good for you. You are only as strong as your weakest link. You are only as successful as the most unsuccessful person in your family. You are only as productive as the laziest son bitch in your household. So if you are allowing failure in your life to exist in your life, your success is being stagnated by the failure that you keep in your house. He says, are you looking for a wife or an employee? It's the same thing, Michael. How is it not the same thing? Take the time to explain to me how is it not the same thing? Because you got to think about this. An employee is going to do whatever it takes to get paid within reason. A wife is going to do whatever it takes to keep the household together so that she can keep the estate. The income that goes to an employee pays for the efforts that you do. The capital gains that the husband makes goes to the wife because she's keeping the shit together. So her hair, her nails, her everything, clothes, trips around the world, the food that she eats, the cars that she drives, cell phone bill, all of this money comes from the house, the estate, the job, the company that's paying her to be here. Her performance as a wife is going to come from working for the husband. Now, you're going to assume what? That it's supposed to be based off of love? I mean, you cannot love the person. You can tolerate the person and develop love for the person. And that's a learned behavior because love is a conscious choice to commit to an individual. You don't actually have to have the butterflies in your stomach, which is actually an acute level of anxiety to say that the sparks are flying and this is the one. This son bitch can be financially stable. This son bitch can be bored as fuck. This son bitch got a plan that'll make us millions before we're old. And that is what I want in my life. And I will stick with this person and I will learn to tolerate, appreciate, respect, and love this person until we make it to that successful level. You don't have to start being head over heels with this person, always on your mind. But loyalty and duty will put you in a situation where after 5 or 10 years of watching the success build, you don't want this shit to fuck up. So you're going to stick with it the same way. You don't love your job when you're homeless and unemployed and you accept this bullshit ass job, cleaning toilets. But now that this job got you in a car, got your own apartment, got your phone bill and everything paid on time, your nice clothes and everything like that. You go to work every day, they talk to you like shit, but you get the fucking job done. You don't love your job, but you're duty bound to the job. You tolerate the job. You depend on the job. You're so loyal to the job that you will make sacrifices for the job. But that's learned behavior. And a wife can do the same thing because what she's getting out of the deal is money and financial security, which is the same thing that an employee is getting out of a business. So are you looking for a wife or are you looking for an employee? I believe that they're one and the same. Yeah, prenuptial agreements. To have sex only on dates, that ends in Y. You shouldn't be you shouldn't be going on sex only dates because I mean at the end of the day you're wasting money. He says a good example is the actor Jay Schrodinger. He is asking why his wife still wants millions of dollars 10 years after the divorce. Perfect example. She is not doing her due diligence. She has a stable lifestyle, but she still wants decades after the divorce millions of dollars that she didn't earn. It's straight up the most unimaginable situation, but that's what men have to deal with. If I'm a millionaire and I marry a woman and then we get a divorce, she's going to want to take half of my millions so that she can sustain the type of lifestyle that I provided to her while we were married. However, if she was a $50,000 a year woman when I found her, and now she's living $1 million lifestyle, the law dictates that she's not supposed to have to go back to where she came from and go back and live in the slums, that I am, through alimony, supposed to maintain the lifestyle that she has now grown accustomed to. That's where alimony comes from. Now, truth be told, that makes no fucking sense. If you came here with shit, you should leave with shit. But that's not how the laws are designed from the 1940s and beyond. So, as men, we have to protect our assets and have women sign contracts that waives their right to take legal action for such compensations before we even walk into the marriage. Not a lot of women are going to do that unless they're truly in it for you. If you're going to have a woman that's going to financially invest in a situation, you have to make sure that you contract her investments in a fashion where she's getting reciprocated, so that even if we separate, her guaranteed reciprocations are her guaranteed reciprocation. That's all she's going to get. Because you can develop a trust that has a termination clause where if she's going to terminate the clause, if there's a penalty fee for X number percentage of what she invested in it. So if you guys put in a few $100,000 and there's a 30% termination clause for the trust that you guys built, she can take her half out. But if she put up 50 grand and there's a 30% cut that's coming out of her terminating the thing, then that's going to put her in a position where she's not going to get back 50 grand. She's not going to get half, because her half is going to be minus 30%, which means that she's probably going to lose closer to $20,000 to $25,000 out of her $50,000 with interest. And that is one of the reasons why CDs, trusts, treasury bonds, and other such investment opportunities strategically put fees and penalties in their life insurance policies, strictly put fees and penalties in there for early cancellation, because it encourages people to not take their money out of the fold. If you really want it, surrender 30% of it, you can have it. You can have whatever's left. What Michael says, what happened to till death do us part? Women started poisoning their husbands. Husbands used to cut the brake lines on these women's cars. That's what happened with till death do us part. But one of the reasons why the largest majority of women are walking away from the 76% of men that don't have enough money for her to stay till death do us part is because dudes are broke as fuck. They're paycheck to paycheck. So what woman wants to stay with a man that tomorrow is his last income and he dies? She doesn't have shit but the stuff that doesn't have a lien against it, right? So why the fuck do I marinate on that? If there was more money coming in, if there was a $2, $3, $5, $7 million thing going on, then that would make a lot more sense to linger on that, right? So even like, take for a man's perspective, if you married to a woman and she doesn't have a job, till death do you part is a loyalty based thing. If she dies tomorrow, you don't get shit but the burial costs, right? So on both sides of the fence, there's no motivation to stay till the end of the other person's life outside of pure willpower, dedication, and loyalty. Now, when there's millions of dollars involved, yeah, you'll stay till the person dies, even if you hate their fucking guts, because it's about getting the inheritance. You have kids that stay in communication with their family members that they don't know and very rarely like, simply because they're written into the will. Otherwise, they would have had no contact with one another. And that's one of the reasons why till death do us part doesn't work. He said not wealthy. Hello, Mateo. I see that you jumped in from a negative perspective. You says sounds like a negative of feminism, respectfully. No, we actually are a male-driven podcast from the male's perspective, and we have no negativity towards women. Actually, we just covered a comment from a guy who's in a relationship where he wants out and he doesn't know why he doesn't leave. And I'm telling him that he's wasting his time by staying in that relationship if it's not working for him the way he wants it to work for him. So, you know, I covered from both sides of the fence and man of uniformity. I mean, you don't have to like what I have to say. It could truly hurt your feelings, specifically because it is factually the way things are. When women don't behave appropriately to the expectations of men, the men have two choices: stay in that bad relationship or leave. And when we start talking about the things that women do that negatively impact the relationship, everybody jumps up with, you know, a very negative perspective that we're not supposed to talk about women when they make mistakes and when they deliberately make bad behavior. And you want to say, well, negative feminist perspective. That's not it. Truth of the matter is that if I was sitting here as a man talking about when men do women dirty, you would have like a million women jump on a podcast and be like, yeah, preach on, brother. Preach on, brother. But as soon as I start calling out when women start doing dirty, and you know, you're you know, anti-feminism, blah 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 blah. Look, bro, if it's not fair to you when it's happening to you, it's not fair to him when it's happening to him. If it was fucked up when it was happening to you, it's fucked up when you're doing it to somebody else. So why is it okay for us to only talk about it when the men do wrong, but it's not okay for us to talk about it when the women do wrong? Michael said poisoning. He says, I read somewhere that some of the old money families use a trust that lasts 300 years. Yes, yes, because once you build the trust and you structure it correctly, there is no modifying it. You hire somebody to operate that shit and it just keeps running. It will just forever keep running. And usually a functional trust is a trust that replenishes itself. So you put everybody that's involved on a trust on a life insurance policy that makes that trust a beneficiary of the trust, which puts more money back into the trust, which allows that trust to be able to distribute more money to the beneficiaries of the next generation and the generation after that. If each person has a multi-million dollar, like let's say you have 10 people on a policy and each person has a $10 million policy. Each of those 10 people have at least one kid. So you have 10 kids that is the second generation of this policy. When the first generation dies out, each person has $10 million. That's 10 people with $10 million. That's a $100 million policy divided between 10 beneficiaries. Those 10 beneficiaries technically have access to $100 million. Now, if the trust is designed in a way to develop revolving capital, then that $10 million worth of or $100 million worth of capital could potentially be generated between $10 and $15 million a year worth of capital that could be divided between 10 kids, which means that each one of them could get paid $1 million a year and never have to work again. Yeah, so those trusts can be built a lot of different ways. Okay, he says, do you support the idea of marriage? I go back and forth. I find that marriage is okay. So the old-fashioned ideology of marriage, where we were back in the day supposed to be doing it for the sake of our religion, that ideology is gone. Okay, so whether I believe in it or not is irrelevant. At this point, marriage in Western culture is a financial transaction, whether we want to admit that or not. Therefore, because we have to understand that each person is their own financial estate, debt and profits. And when you marry, it is a merger. It is a union of assets. And ultimately, the fact is that while I would like to have a 20, 30, 40, or 50-year marriage under my belt to be able to tell my kids, my grandkids about, I also recognize that in order for me to have that type of marriage, I have to have a person that has the right mentality that respects the dynamic of that marriage. So it's not just respecting who I am as a man, but it's also respecting the kingdom that we will be creating under my authority. So I would go back and forth in this dynamic as well, because the behavior of certain Western cultural women that does not support this dynamic would discourage me from getting married to a woman that would lead to a divorce, because she does not behave in the fashion before she became a girlfriend as the type of woman that will qualify to be a wife, which also means that since I'm not going to deal with the pushback of her refusing to want to learn how to be the proper wife and then forced to marry her because we've been around each other for 5 years, where she's not going to be the wife that I wanted her to be because she wasn't the girlfriend I wanted to be, but I decided to marry her because we were sleeping together for 5 years. That's what Western culture actually does. Now you have an unhappy marriage when you had an unhappy relationship, and you had 3 good days out of that, which was like the day before the wedding, and the day after the wedding, and then after that was complete shit. So in all of that dynamic, it's like, if you're not going to find the right person, marriage is not a good idea. If you can find the right person to do that with, and you might have to fly to a different country as passport bros to go to like Asia, Southeast Asia, and go find your woman that still have traditional values where she will respect you and your authority while y'all build the estate together. But you've got to have the ability to build an estate where you're not just sitting over here like stagnated and plateaued. He says, spend the inheritance. Well, you only spend the inheritance if somebody has to build it, and then you have to get it in order for you to spend it. Because if even under the hypothetical that say the ancestors had an estate, they had an inheritance, they wrote a will, everybody knows about the will, but you're spending it before you die. They think that there's money there, and then you die and there's nothing there. Then when they go to the reading of the will, they come to find out there's nothing there. They still stayed and they still showed up and they still performed under the falsehood that they might get paid. Once they realized that nothing was there for them, it's too late because they gave all of this effort to get money in return. If they valued you for who you were, they would have been there when you were broke down and out. But a lot of men are single right now where women that they used to talk to 5 or 10 years ago, they don't talk to, because when these guys were broke down and out or not making enough money, these women did not want to stay with those men and build those men up. These women wanted to find a man that was already financially established. And pardon him, he's jaded. Oh, I know he's jaded. My intention was that I think feminism has many negative impacts. Maybe you disagree. Man, no, actually I don't. I believe that the way these women have grown up to be corrupted by the last generation of bitter women, that the women are not behaving the way men would prefer. Part of a woman's negative behavior is conditioned by the way men interact with women, but the other part of the women's negative behavior is based on how women teach other women. After you get your 40s, 50s, and 60s and you hate men, you start teaching the women that are in their 18s and their 20s and teach them how to hate men. And it's like before she even gets a chance to find a good guy, you're teaching her that all men ain't shit, which is compromising her unilateral decision-making skills to be able to find the right guy. And most children are growing up in single-family homes where the women are raising the kids. So if the boys are not behaving the way they're supposed to behave as men, they were raised by a woman. And the women that are not behaving the way they're supposed to be raised as women, they were raised by a woman. Because 82% of children in a separation are raised by the woman based on the corruption of the legal system, where they never put the children with the fathers. But if they were put with the fathers, they would be taught logic and reason, and they would have more ability to negotiate. He says, or maybe you misunderstood. Oh, no, I probably misunderstood the first comment that you put in there, because I was talking about something and you dove in there almost like I hate women. And it's not that I hate women. I just don't like the decision-making skills because it's counterproductive to their own agendas. He says, I don't support feminism in the United States. I am pro prenup and men protecting themselves for divorce if they choose to get married. Bro, I am talking about girlfriend contracts before we even start. Before you move into my house, you're gonna have to sign a document that is a division of assets document, so that we not only establish what's yours and what's mine, we also establish what your money is going towards. Because if I own my own house, you're not paying towards equity in my house. You're paying for room and board as a tenant in my house. If I'm paying on a car note, you're not paying towards equity of my car note. You are leasing my car as usage for whatever it is that you're trying to do. I'm going to get it in writing that you're not giving me money so that you can have a financial investment in my property. This is while we're dating. This isn't even the freaking fiance. This isn't the marriage. When we start talking about the fiance, you start talking about a whole different contract, because the ring is not a gift. It is an investment. The proposal operation, that's not a gift. If you fail to marry, the freaking ring's got to go back. That's an investment. And if you fail to fulfill that obligation, you must earn that potentially with interest. You know what I mean? If you leave me standing on the altar, you're going to have a lot of penalties to occur. You know what I mean? This is the kind of contracts that we're creating right now. We're protecting men at the gate. From the first date, when we start talking to one another, before I decide that you need to spend 3 nights at my house, let me introduce you to this contract. You know, I'm with you on that, Mateo. He says, now they all get $50 per month. bread like rabbits. Marriage money for the state. He says, What is your idea of a fair prenup regarding the division of assets? Whatever you bring to the table is all you're going to get, unless you are going to put in effort to earn more. I would assume that if the woman is going to stay with the man for the entirety of his life and he's going to have a natural death that has no suspicion of foul play, that she may be entitled to additional assets or some level of authority over some of the assets as compensation for remaining the entire span of the life. But when we start talking about, like, from us getting married, first 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it's just like when you're involved in a company. When you first get into the company, there is shit that you're entitled to when you walk out. 10 years in, you might have a little bit of stock in the company. 20 years in, you might be partner. If you're in a good job, 30 or 40 years in, you might have a decent quantity of shares in the company. So when you're putting 40 or 50 years into your existence into something, the likelihood of you having a larger entitlement when the ownership changes over, that makes more sense. So I'm in my 40s. I married a chick that would ride that wave with me for another 40 years. Then she would be entitled to more stuff than a divorce. And it could be written into the prenup that upon my timely demise, that certain extra stuff would go to her, but she would forfeit all of that stuff. She would waive her entitlement to that stuff upon filing a divorce. Right? Which also means that if you really want to leave that bad, you're walking out of this marriage and you're taking nothing with you besides the clothes on your back and the stuff listed under your name on this document. So you can either stay in the marriage and have all of this extra stuff that you can utilize, or walk away from the marriage and walk away from everything. And I believe that that's going to be a fair prenuptial agreement. Now, when you start talking about, like, women are going to say, oh, but I do this and I do that. I give birth. I raise the kids, this, that, and third. You choose to raise the kids because I can raise the kids. And you choose to give birth. And if you give birth so that I can have the legacy, then any power of attorney that you would have over the child's portion of the estate until they're of the age of 18, if that is even written in the documents, that's all the authority that you have over the accessibility to the kids' estate. However, we also recognize that you giving birth, however many times you have kids, is not putting your life on the line as often as a man is going to sacrifice his life for getting hit by a car on your behalf, fighting people for your purse, getting jumped in nightclubs, getting shot at, and all these other things. A man is like a walking security guard for his wife. And he does not get hazard pay for that. When she starts wilding out, he does not get hazard pay for that. He does not get compensated at all to protect his wife. But she gets the estate if he dies trying to protect his wife. So, I'm going to be honest with you. The fair division, she's got to earn it. If she doesn't earn it, she don't get shit. Michael said, I don't have issues with women. They treat me nicely. You're old. Of course they're going to treat you nicely. He says, should wife get 50% of the assets generated after the start of the marriage? Fuck no. She should only get the percentage that she contributes. That's what she should get. There is no such thing as 50-50. That is the biggest lie. Because if she's paying half of the bills and he's paying for all of her entertainment and gifts and trips around the world and all this other shit, whatever she's putting on the bills is being rebated back to her in gifts and trips and all of this other shit, which is like a 70-30 scenario. So why is she going to be entitled to 50-50? Women are going to try to say that makes sense to get half because she is the other person involved in the situation. But if I made all of the money, why are you entitled to half of what I made? If we flip the script, what woman would say that she made herself a $100,000, $500,000 woman? The house is hers, the cars are hers, everything's hers. She marries a guy, all he brought was the shoes on his fucking feet. She even bought clothes on his back. Now, would a woman say that after marrying that guy that he would be entitled to 50% of her estate? Most women would say, hell fucking no. That she worked for everything that she got, and she should not have to give half of it to somebody who did not put in on it. And as a result, I strongly believe that since that is the dynamic, if she would have had everything that she worked for, that should be the exact same dynamic if he had everything that he worked for, because it takes a man 3/4 of his life to make himself financially valuable to a woman. Women are born valuable to a man, to the magnitude that we've got men that are like women are calling men creeps if we go pre-order the women before they reach a certain age. If we're over there talking to the chick before she's a certain age, the women have value. Like, look, I'm going to tell you some ages that you're going to be like, gross, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 in China, Russia, and all these other countries, 14, 15, 16 in the United States, 16 in Texas, 17, 18, 19 years old. These women already have value. Men want them at these ages. Not saying it's appropriate or not, but they already have their value. Like, take the 15-year-old that got ran through by 25 different boys in her Catholic school in Florida. Catholic school, the football team took turns. 25 boys took turns on this 15-year-old child in the school because she had value at 15 years old. Her value is, the more people that tap that, the lower her value gets. You got to understand it. So by the time she's 40 and her account is 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, her value is gone. 3, 5 kids, a C-section, her value is gone. His value continues to be built. He's 45, 50 years old. And now he's got enough money to pay for a house and 3 cars and a wife and 4 kids. Now he's got enough value for a woman to say, okay, I'll take this guy. Now, if it takes him 3/4 of his life to make himself valuable, why should he give half of his life to the first woman he marries? She didn't earn that. She didn't find him when he was broke and build him up to a financially successful man. If she would have found him when he had nothing and she built him up to be successful, then I believe, yeah, she should get half of it, because he would not have been successful without her. Take Michelle and Barack. He's a good talker, but she's a good promoter. He got where he was because of what she did. So whatever he gets as president, she's entitled to that as the first lady, because she kicked in on that. Now, if Barack would have got president first, do you think that marrying Michelle after he became the president, that she earned that? Fuck no. Because at the end of the day, he had to succeed before she talked to him. So how is she entitled to his success if she didn't invest in it? So there is no 50% generated in marriage when the average woman cannot name one man out of all the men that they slept with where she made him successful before she left. So since you've never made a man successful while you're in a relationship with him, why are you entitled to half of whatever he's got when you leave? If you worked at a fast food restaurant, never contributed to the creation of a sandwich, why are you entitled to a meal on your way out? You don't get shit because you didn't bring shit. He says, I agree with you, but it's hardcore and most women will not like it. Well, see, standing on non-negotiable expectations for behavior puts me in a position where I have to be hardcore about it. I am not going to be like Myron Gaines hardcore about it. I'm not going to be Andrew Tate hardcore about it. But at the end of the day, it is true that you have to stand on non-negotiable expectations for behavior. The difference between those guys and me is that I'm going to tell you guys, hey, if we flip the script and this was her shit, let a woman step up here and say, oh yeah, I'll give all of my stuff to my man and let him spend up all of my money and use up all of my stuff. Most women are not going to say that. There's going to be at least one that'll lie and say, yeah, I'll do that. But the average woman who has made herself successful through divorce. The average woman has not made herself successful on her own merit. The average woman has not made herself successful by making her husband successful. So we're not in a situation where we're going to find $250,000 women walking around the streets. Oh yeah, we'll find a lot of women that went to nursing school, $40,000 a year, $55,000 a year, but you're making the same amount of money as the guy in the drive-thru taking your order. So when a guy wants to talk to you and get your number and you say, oh no, that's okay, because you're not interested in him because he works in the drive-thru, but he makes $2,000 to $5,000 to $10,000 more than what you make. Because nurses fresh out of college are like $35,000, $45,000, $50,000 a year, and Fast food restaurants are $65,000 a year for night shift. So the guy at the drive-thru is making more money with a lower prestige job as the girl in the drive-thru buying something from him in a higher prestige hospital. But her $55,000 a year job and his $65,000 a year job can come together, and now they have almost $120,000 between the two of them. And if they lived off of 60,000 of that, they could put the other 60,000 away, and you'd have 600,000 plus interest. Which, if you're using the rates that we be talking about on the show at 15% or more, you're likely to have $750,000 in 10 years. So she could be a nurse, and she could stay with a fast food drive guy for 10 years. They can make enough money where they can both quit and spend the next 30 years living the life. Because with $750,000 and just get closer to $90,000. And if you're living a $60,000 a year lifestyle already, that means that you got the $60,000 a year lifestyle that's locked in, or you can up it to a $75,000 a year lifestyle, and you still got $20,000 left. And that's a nurse, not a registered nurse, not an RN. That's a regular, basic ass high school dropout with a college trade, 18-month regular nurse, and a high school dropout went to work at a Wendy's and got promoted to a shift manager. That's it. The average freaking day-to-day guy. And y'all can make it to $750,000 in 10 years by just not being assholes. Women are not going to like this. But when a woman says, I want a $100,000 a year man so that she can quit and stay at home and then bitch about having to take care of the kids so that he can make what the two of them could have made, we're still in a position where you're asking for too much. You want to be cared for, but you don't want to earn it. If he's the only income, then that makes her the employee. And what is she doing to earn the pay if she's the employee? He said, have you noticed that very few successful women will marry a guy who has no money without a prenup? You notice how there's very few women that's willing to date a guy, especially black women, that's willing to date a guy if they make less money than her, especially if he's broke. So women are going to want that prenup when it's her money on the line, but she doesn't want the prenup when it's his money on the line. Why? Because they're going into it with greed and they're looking for the financial security. If I give him the best years of my life, I'm entitled to half of his income. But you're asking for half of his estate for your presence, not for your effort. And I disagree with that, because what company is going to give you 5 promotions and 17 raises because you show up for work every day? You typically have to perform better than everybody else on the job in order for you to get a raise. You typically have to outperform everybody on the job for years in order for you to get promoted. You got to do the job of your boss in order to qualify for a promotion. So how can a girlfriend not do the work of a wife and then qualify to be promoted to a wife? That makes no sense. He says, I know little about fiance. Can you explain what they do to invest their money in order to get that $700,000 after 10 years? Well, there are you said that you don't know a lot about finance. Okay, so let me see. I think I got them going across the screen. I don't. Here. So you see these stocks going across the top of the screen? This is one of the easiest ways that you can put yourself together. And then also, if you go to the membership, because I put a lot of financial information into the membership, you can invest in a 100% portfolio that is all dividend-based portfolio, where, depending on the stocks and shares that you grab, that anywhere between the highly volatile 22 and 23% real estate investment trust and the 3 and 5% staples and medicine-related industries, and we got the oil tankers up there and all of this other stuff that's up there, that depending on how you allocate the capital, you can get 15% return on investment by investing in a brokerage account. You don't have to have expert level knowledge in anything other than put your money in stable companies that have been around for 50 years that pays its shareholders money. And we found it for you and put it up there on the screen for you. So all you got to do is just go do your research and invest in them. Now, the average person typically wastes the largest majority of their income either through discretionary spending for immediate gratification or lifestyle creep, where she's got a job, he's got a job, and we're going to pool our money together and get a better standard of living. So instead of us staying in the cheaper lifestyle that we have, we're going to buy a bigger house. We're going to buy brand new cars. We're going to buy brand new phones. We're going to buy more expensive clothes. We're going to eat out more often. We're going to go from regular food to steak and lobster and all this other shit. And that's going to become the norm. And now our lifestyle cost is 100% of what our current paycheck to paycheck is. We get a bonus, we upgrade. We get a raise, we upgrade, right? But we're forever living paycheck to paycheck. Now, if you put away, now think about this now, because it depends on how much money you guys got. Because if you're living off of one income, it's harder to do. But you're living off of one income, you're able to take 20% off of a $50,000 a year income. That's $20,000 a year. 15% return on investment, you're typically getting like $1,500 off of every $10,000, which means that your $20,000 worth of investment should get you about $23,000 every year. But that's just the basic investment year over year, which means that over 10 years, without compounding the interest, your $200,000 would be $230,000. But your $200,000 would be compounded with interest, because you'd have your $23,000 from year one plus the $20,000 plus the interest on the $43,000, which is going to be a lot more than $3,000. So year over year, it's going to be way more. And when you think when you get to $100,000, and $100,000 is now not giving you $3,000, at $100,000, $100,000 can give you $15,000 plus your $20,000 plus the extra $3,000 on the $20,000. You're now looking at, instead of getting silly $3,000 year over year, you're looking at getting like $40,000 or $50,000 year over year, increasing the principal, which means that compounding interest would put your average income of $20,000 a year put away to something close to $350,000 to $400,000 after 10 years, if you invest consistently. Now, when we think about how the average individual, this is the logic behind a couple coming together and not being broke after 10 years. First and foremost, women gain 23% of their income from their boyfriends. Men waste 41% of their income on their girlfriends. So there's an 18% discretionary spending that's just wasted on her entertainment. If you calculate, and the government already does this, 150% of the cost of living. So one person is 100% of the income, an extra person on a lifestyle, because some stuff is shared, 50% more, right? So if you're living off of a $50,000 a year lifestyle, you add a girlfriend to the fold, it should cost you approximately $75,000. If he's making $50,000 a year and she's making $50,000 a year, that's $100,000 combined income that should only cost them $75,000 a year. Now, that means there's $25,000 left over. Okay, ultimately meaning that if you could put away $25,000 a year, you're putting away well over $250,000 in 10 years, which brings you closer to the $400,000 to $500,000 that I was talking to you guys about. But when you say the $700K after 10 years, I said a nurse making $55,000, $60,000 a year, and I said a drive-through guy making $65,000 a year come together, $120,000, $130,000 a year. And if they lived off of the one income, where you're living off of 60 grand and putting away 60 grand, where you're living off of, let's say you live off of the girlfriend's income and invest the boyfriend's income, right? It doesn't matter. What matters is that if you're putting away 60 grand, with even lowballing that and saying that $130,000 or $150,000 over the course of 10 years worth of compounded interest will put you somewhere around $750,000. That's the lowballing. But if you're looking at 60 grand on 10%, that's 66 grand a year. Gonna get compounded interest, but I told you about 15%, which will be 3,000 for every 20,000, which will be like 9,000. So you'll be looking at 69,000 a year going into your brokerage account, which ultimately would mean that over the course of 10 years, without doing the exuberant compounded interest calculations, you would still be looking at $690,000 plus the additional compounded interest, which would be about $750,000 to $800,000. if you didn't waste the money. But that also means that the sacrifice is that you're not going to fall on lifestyle creep. You're not going to say, well, because the two of us make twice as much money, let's buy a bigger house, let's buy a bigger car, let's buy 5 cars, let's do all this other stuff. We say, nope, we managing off of what we have now. Let's just stay this way for 10 years. And then we can start taking the interest off the principal and do all of that upgrading that we want to do. But that's not what people do. He says Kobe Bryant didn't want a prenup because he loved his woman so much. A very strange situation. Kobe Bryant was paid to play ball. Okay. Oh, let's be honest. Yes. Athletes that exercise so that they can go out there and participate in the sport. It is considered a career. And I mean, they got to put a lot of practice into the career and all of this other stuff. So I'm not going to devalue the career. Okay. But what I am going to say is that you have inmates doing life in prison that are doing the exact same thing that Kobe Bryant was doing for millions of dollars a year. The value of the effort, to me, he can say that I'm not going to do a prenup because I love my wife. But he's doing the same thing that the inmates on the yard is doing for 1 hour a day. So my observation is this: he didn't have anything to protect. If that, especially if she was with him before he made the millions, and she was the one that got him out of bed, if she was the one that made him train, if she was the one that kept him practicing, if she was the one that got him scouted, if she was the one that got him his first contract, if she was the one that put him in the fucking NBA, then I wouldn't want a prenup either. If I am this successful because of her, she's entitled to everything anyway, so I don't need a prenup. She earned it. But now if he married her after he signed his first NBA deal, just to say, oh, well, you know, I love my wife, I don't want a prenup, that's just a misguided claim. I would never make that. I would not make it big and then claim that she who has not earned it should get everything just because. No, fuck that. But if she was there from the grit, if she was there when I had my first pair of Converse, and she was the one that bought me the replacement shoes when my soles were out, she was the one that was rubbing my feet and massaging my back when I was too tired to go back out there and do practice again. She was the one that was waking me up early in the morning so that I wouldn't miss morning practice and run them drills and shit. She was there before I made it big. Then yeah, she earned every fucking dollar she gets because she was there from the beginning. Now, I don't know when he married her. I don't know when he met her. I don't know if she was there from the beginning or not. But the difference in how I would treat the woman is, when the fuck did you show up? Did you show up in the beginning before I made it? Or did you show up after you seen I was successful? She was young and he was already making millions when they met. Then she don't deserve shit. So my statement is not gonna change. If she was with him before he made it big, then I'll be on that. I'll be like, yeah, she earned it. But if he was a billionaire when he met her, no, she didn't earn it. He earned it, and he just gave it to her because he could. But a lot of men do that. I'm not going to knock her for his decision. A lot of men do that. A lot of men, very few men, there's less men with prenups than there are men with prenups. Typically, men who have something worth losing have prenups, but not all of them. But look at what happened. Kobe didn't make it till death do us part to per se. I mean, technically he did because of a plane crash, but he didn't die of old age, right? So at the end of the day, all of his assets was put in a fucking trust anyway, and she's one of the beneficiaries of the trust. So it doesn't really matter how it worked out, because once he died in a helicopter crash, she got everything that she's entitled to get to based off of the document that he put into the trust. He doesn't technically have to write a prenuptial agreement with her if all of the money is tied up in the trust in the first place, because he doesn't have shit for her to take from him, because his whole career goes into this trust. And that's another thing. So he could make it seem like, well, you know, she can have everything. But if it's not written in that trust document, she can't have everything. She can only have some of it. right? All right, let's touch base with the next comment.
My husband says he is seriously considering divorce because he found his high school first love. A week ago, completely by chance, I found out that my husband had, purposefully, met up with another woman at our business. He tells me she is the love of his life and has been since high school. Sorry, this will be long. I am 42 and he is 44. A little background, a bit vaguely to be anonymous. We met and started dating when we were in our early 20s. Got married in our late 20s. We've been together about 20 years. We've been working together now on our business for about 15 years. Moved to 2 new states to get it going. About 2 months ago we started to become profitable. Hooray! It's been a long journey, but it's been so worth it. His dream since he was a child was always to have a successful business. Like I stated above, made a sad discovery last week. He told me to stay home and relax. He'd go in and take care of the morning workflow. Whenever he goes to work by himself, I always check our street view to make sure he made it there safe. Well, he did. I saw something really strange though. All cameras glitched and suddenly there was no recording. I thought to myself, that's strange, did the power go off? So, I went to the playback to check. That's when I noticed a woman I've never seen before. He was letting her inside. Then the cameras were gone. So, it wasn't a power outage. So much for his secret. He turned off the cameras a little too late. I was devastated to say the least. I know he has women friends. I've never cared about that before. Why is this woman such a secret? Why didn't he tell me he was having a visitor at work? Then this quick trip to work turned into him being gone from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. What was going on? When he got home I asked him how his day was. How was your day, etc. I gave him a chance to tell me what I really hoped he'd say. Oh, everything was good. I had a guest. Good day. Instead he was evasive. Then immediately went to take a 2-hour nap in the couch. He was nice to me, at least there's that. The next day, same thing. I stayed home, he went to work. This time he was back way earlier, probably by 12. That's when I couldn't hold it in anymore. I asked him to sit down, I had something to ask him. He knew right away. I asked who the woman was. He broke down, started crying, and told me that when he was looking up dentists for a recent broken tooth, he found the love of his life from when he was a teenager. He lost contact with her, and he was so happy to find her. He told me that we spend so much time together, he just wanted a little thing for himself to keep secret. That I wasn't a part of or knew about. Now, this was also news to me. You want to spend less time with me, and this is the way you think to do it? Well, that turned into, I feel like I've lost the spark in our marriage. I asked him when that happened, and he said a couple months ago. That's when he found her online. He said he didn't know how to tell me he was feeling this way. He didn't know if he should tell me. Ugh. I let him know that sometimes marriages have their lows and he should have let me know. I love him with all my heart. He is the love of my life. He can, and does typically, tell me everything. Well, to try and not make this too long. After that it turned into a conversation on how he'd been feeling. That he still loves me, but he didn't think he loved me like a wife anymore. It's so hard to write that. I'm his best friend and he doesn't want to hurt me. We have a home and this business that he now wants to sell. This business that was his dream. He told me it isn't turning out how he'd thought it would. He's disappointed. He doesn't know what he wants to do. He wants to take it day by day. I'm willing to do that. Like I said, I love him. I think he's going through a mental crisis or, like, a midlife crisis. Something. This isn't normal for him at all. So, here's my question. The woman is married and has children. I don't know if she wants to start an affair with him, or is currently having an affair with him. All I know is that I want to reach out to her husband and let him know that his wife and my husband have been texting. Does he know that they've met up? Are they separated? My husband says they are married, but I just don't trust him now. Is this a bad decision? I feel like I'll get the answers I need from this guy. I need to know if I can save my marriage or if my husband had already moved on. I can't see how this could hurt. But, to be fair, I'm very upset. I'm probably not thinking straight. What are my next steps, I guess, is the real question.
Okay, so first let's start talking about the fact that a lot of women believe that when a man doesn't behave the way she wants him to behave, that there's a mental issue involved. Society believes that when a human being doesn't behave the way society expects a human being to behave, that there's a mental issue involved. A lot of times it is not a mental issue. It is just dissatisfaction. Okay. Now, while they're not making the decisions that you would make, doesn't change the fact that there is a level of dissatisfaction that is not being addressed. We'll continue. I want to give a special shout out to Stephen, because Stephen dropped in while he was on break, giving us his like. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe and mash those reaction buttons while you're here. Another thing I want to touch before I keep going, FX Trader said that Kobe Bryant's family wanted him to get a prenup. Of course, they were the ones that were asking for all the money out of his pocket. So yeah, they're going to want to do a prenup, but you know, it is what it is. Now, back to this lady. So, yes, you probably have reached the level of your marriage where you've reached a dull spot. You guys work together, you live together. Most of your relationship is just business. The spark of your marriage is gone because you guys have gone from being romantic partners to like colleagues. The business is not easy. It requires a lot of work and a lot of effort, and you guys find yourselves more often than not only focusing on the job. The love of his life that for some reason wasn't the one that chose him, because he wanted her probably in the friend zone his entire like high school scenario. And now that they've rekindled, this is one of those situations where men are like dogs, not because they're evil bastards, but because they're unnecessarily loyal in the most inconvenient ways. His heart was dedicated to her back when he was a child. And now she may regret, because her relationship could have reached that dull spot as well. She regrets not acknowledging and validating his feelings when they were younger. There isn't much advice that I can give you for that particular moment in time for him and her. However, you already had a level of insecurity because you were stalking your husband. When he goes to work by himself, you watch the video cameras to see where he goes and see what he does. You're going to claim that you're doing it for safety, but you're doing it for your level of insecurity because you don't trust him. That's plain and simple. Because if you trusted your husband, you would have took your ass to bed. You would not be watching the surveillance cameras. You wouldn't care where he went or what he was doing. And you would never have paid attention to the fact that he turned off the cameras. But you are the kind of person that stalks your husband because you don't trust him. And you ultimately know that since you don't treat him as good as he could be getting treated by somebody else, you are afraid that he will leave you for somebody else. So you want to just see if he's interacting with other women to find out if he is looking for somebody else. Really and truthfully, lady, if you look hard enough, you will find what you're looking for. Because if you're not trying to create the kind of environment that will prevent him from being compelled to leave, then he will be compelled to leave. That it is just, that's just what it is. Now, you found out about the other woman. It was your choice to recognize that he's spending a lot of time with another woman, and you should sit him down and start talking about your relationship and rekindling the relationship, not focusing on the other woman. When you brought up the other woman to him, you're stalking him, you admitted that you're stalking him, and now you're going to get him to tell you the whole truth and nothing but the truth, of which he did. You didn't like what he had to say, but now you're revengeful. And I'm going to say that you're revengeful because this is the moment where you want to tell her husband, if he doesn't know what's going on right now, what you're about to do is destroy his marriage in hopes that her fighting with her husband will prevent your husband from leaving you for this other woman. Now, the problem that we're going to have with this particular position is that if he was in a nostalgic position where he met up with his high school sweetheart, they've been hanging out for a couple of weeks, they're going to get past this. It's a passing moment where he's going to recognize that what he built with his wife is just as significant as how he used to feel about this other woman. He's going to make effort into having that feeling with his current wife, hypothetically, and in that dynamic, the woman in passing is a woman in passing from the past. Now, if that would have been the outcome, and you go and destroy her marriage, what happens is that she's going to cry to your husband because you destroyed her marriage. And now your husband is going to dislike you because you destroyed the love of his life. Now, the problem with that is that any ability for you and your husband to reconcile your marriage is going to be tarnished by your passive aggressive behavior that is coming out of spite because you found out that he's talking to somebody else. Instead of telling her husband, because that's none of your business, truthfully. Yeah, I know some people are going to say, no, it's her business because it's her relationship. No, her husband's behavior is her business. And her husband's behavior is her business to the magnitude where she deals with that directly with her husband. The other woman is none of her business. The knowledge of her existence is her ability to draw the line at her husband and say, hey, look, I understand this is the love of your life. I'm not okay with you having all of this extracurricular with her without me being involved. We need to rediscuss how you interact with the love of your life unless you're planning on getting a divorce, right? So that's the fullest extent of that discussion. Not, I want to talk to her, put her in her place about talking to my husband. No, that's not your place as his wife. Your place as his wife, as his business partner, is to make sure that your business partner stays in fucking business with you. Your place is to make sure that your husband stays in fucking marriage with you. That's got shit to do. And burning bridges with the love of his life is not going to maintain and procure your relationship with your husband. Okay. So my advice to you is to leave her family alone. Okay. Focus on your own. The best thing that you can do, since the love is there but not sparked, find out from your husband what is missing. What is he getting out of his interactions with her that's not there between you and him? That's how you fix your marriage. And then start doing that shit. Because clearly she's not cooking and cleaning and folding his underwear. You know, the conversations that they have that are non-judgmental, non-resentful, non-retaliatory, the safe space that he has with her is probably something that he doesn't have with you, which is why you're stalking him on the surveillance cameras of the car. There's things that you do that you think is nothing, that he thinks is everything, that he tolerates because y'all have been together for 20 fucking years. You trained him over the last 20 years to submit to your demands, and he has accommodated that over the last 20 years, but that doesn't mean that he's been happy the last 20 years. You're okay because you've got the financial security. He hasn't been okay for the last 20 years. And now that option one has shown up, now you're in a situation where he can choose to stay with you or go with someone else, and now your situation is compromised. A lot of women prioritize themselves in a relationship, and they don't prioritize their husbands and their boyfriends, and because of that, that puts them in a compromising position where their husband or their boyfriend steps up and says, I'm not happy, let me go find somebody else who's willing to make me happy. Are you in favor of buying a house or renting a house? Me personally, I would have at least one homestead that I would own in a trust that is operated by a third party so that I don't have to worry about somebody trying to take that from me. And then beyond that, everything else would be rental properties. And one of the main reasons why I have at least one homestead is because in the portfolio that I would handle, the mortgage and other such things that would be tied into that homestead would be tax blankets towards the other incomes that I would be generating in other places. That property would also be successfully leverageable because the monetary value of the property could give me investment capital by taking a mortgage out on the property and then going and expanding on other properties, where I would preserve from certain areas the cost and capital capabilities to maintain the mortgage when I don't have tenants paying for the mortgage. But I would also be able to leverage that property to expand my collection of real estate. Now, when we start talking about the difference between owning a house versus renting a house, it is way easier to rent a house. There's less responsibilities. Everything is done for you. All you have to do is just show up and pay your bills on time. The problem I have with rental properties is that whether it's a 12-month, 18-month, 24-month contract, even if it's a rollover contract or whatever the case may be, you find yourself in a problem where there's a 4% increase on rent year over year. You find yourself in a scenario where when the property changes ownership, because rental properties are sold to other people on a regular basis, the new owner does not have to uphold the old owner's lease, which means that the new owner can evict you after a reasonable period of time, force you to look for another place. So you never have guaranteed housing when you rent. You have guaranteed housing when you own, at least one. And even if it's one under a mortgage, you have guaranteed housing because as long as you pay the mortgage company doesn't give a fuck what you do with the house. As long as you're paying a mortgage, and the ability for them to collect the house is directly between you and them. If you change ownership, they'll pull the loan. But as long as you are directly responsible for the house, where you're directly responsible for the loan and you're paying the loan, they don't really give a fuck what you do with the house. But with rental property, while you don't have as much responsibility as you have with home ownership, and you don't have the extra cost that comes with the responsibilities of maintenance in home ownership, rental properties has less security than home ownership. Now, when you're a multimillionaire and you're generating a lot of revenue through your business, you can live in hotels, luxury penthouse suites, the size of a condo, the size of an apartment complex, and ride that off of the overhead of your business, where now you have housekeepers and everything to that effect that just revolving capital can pay for, where owning a house becomes impractical. But from broke to middle class, from $30,000 a year to like $250,000 a year, owning at least one house makes fucking sense, because you have housing security that you don't have when you rent. And if you have housing security, that actually is a huge thing that you have to put into your girlfriend contract at the beginning of your relationship. When y'all start dating one another, you move her into something that you own. You want to make sure that you contract out, like, she's not living here and investing in the equity of this place. She's not living here and investing in the equity of the cars that are being financed here or anything to that effect. If she is renting possession of premises and usage space. And if you get it contracted out correctly and verified by an attorney and put the appropriate clause for the city and state that you're drafting these documents in, where she's waiving the right to claim any type of ownership of any of this stuff, when y'all separate, she can't take the car and the house. She can take the clothes on her back and get the fuck out, but she can't take anything that you didn't say was hers, because she signed a contract waiving any claim to that. So do I think that home ownership is better than renting, or renting is better than home ownership? I think that depends on the person. If you don't want responsibility, rent. Deal with the volatility of the increased cost of living every year. As long as you're making enough money to cover that, rent. If you're willing to take on the responsibility of scheduling maintenance and the stability of guaranteed housing, buy, own. Bucket list lifestyle. If you want to be able to say that you have bought and owned at least one house in your life, do that shit. Do that shit. rent, but you buy at least one house and then rent it out, where the property that's being rented out pays for your rent in the apartment that you stay in, where you still don't have any responsibility, but you're generating income from a house that you own. You can do that too. That's fantastic. People talk about it all the time, duplexes and fourplexes and quadruplexes and all this other shit, where you live in one unit and rent out the rest of the place to everybody else, and they cover the standard of living that you have. But just simple like rent versus buy. I like the guaranteed, because think about this. If you own the house, there's no mortgage on it. Your property taxes is what? Depending on the cost of the house, like $1,000 a year, $5,000 a year, $500 a year, which is anywhere between $50 to $100 a month for property taxes, versus $1,200, $1,500, $2,000, $3,000. Right now in New York is $5,500 a month for rent. Fuck how much it costs to repair this bitch. The difference between $5,500 a month for rent in New York versus $5,000 a year for property taxes, I would prefer to own. Because even if I had $2,000 a month worth of repair bill, which is fucking astronomical for a property, it would still be cheaper than the rent in New York. So you got to think about opportunity costs when you think about stuff like that. All right, let's go ahead and touch base on the next one.
What would you do in this situation? I was questioning my former friend's intentions in my startup business, and I ultimately decided that she didn't understand my business goals, causing a financial loss for myself to fix. I had a situation with a former friend of mine that ended terribly. It all started when I invited my friend, let's call her Anne, a fake name, to be a writer for my startup company. The company is focused on developing a fashion doll line, which has truly been my dream since childhood. I always wanted to pursue this dream, but I thought it was unattainable because I didn't have the financial capital to start one. Moving forward, I met someone with significantly more insight into starting a business, and they helped me begin building this idea. We both knew it was what some would call a pipe dream, but I was ambitious and felt I had nothing to lose, so I went straight for my goal, building a competitive doll line that could stand alongside brands like Mattel. At 22 years old, I had no idea where to begin. I knew I needed original models and would have to hire a freelance artist to create 3D models for the dolls. I started using Fiverr, a freelancing platform I came across. Unfortunately, I later discovered it had little regulation regarding AI-generated content, and the artist I hired submitted work that turned out to be low-quality AI-generated material. Around this time, I told Anne about my startup and invited her to be the author for the project since she was passionate about writing. What I didn't realize was that she wanted to take on more than just the role of author, and she began overstepping her position on multiple occasions. At first, I let it slide because I trusted her and believed she was genuinely trying to help. Without my knowledge, she began handling tasks that I should have been responsible for, such as creating social media accounts for the company, including Gmail, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. While I appreciated the effort, I was fully capable of doing these things myself. She then started contacting and emailing potential freelancers for the project. Again, I assumed she was just trying to help, and at that stage I didn't question her intentions. Looking back, I realize how risky it was for me as the founder not to be involved in the hiring process. Evaluating hires is crucial, and ultimately, any consequences would fall on me, and I was prepared to take responsibility for that. However, she began acting as a mediator or middleman, which led to serious issues. I trusted her judgment on a hire, but the person she brought in did not meet our company's goals and caused a financial loss for both me and my business partner. This upset me deeply. I hadn't properly vetted the situation, and I began questioning her intentions and motivations. When I confronted her about my concerns, she took no accountability and chose to walk away from the company entirely, leaving me to deal with the consequences of the situation. This experience affected me severely. My mental health declined and I lost all motivation. I spent a long time feeling stuck, unmotivated, and overwhelmed. Everything I had worked for, the time, effort, and financial investment, felt meaningless in that moment. What hurt the most was that I believed a friend would stand by me and help fix things, but instead she walked away without any responsibility. To this day, I'm left questioning her intentions and still wanting some form of closure.
Okay, So first off, special shout out to Daniel. Appreciate you for coming in tonight, diving in, letting us know what's up every Sunday. Second of all, um, it sounds to me like you're being irresponsible. So that's not the term that I normally would use, but I'm just going to start off with being irresponsible. The issue is that you brought your friend on, and while I've been able to start up two businesses with a friend of mine, I know that you can't have big business with close friends if you're not willing to stand on your non-negotiable expectations for behavior. You have to micromanage your friends and tell them what they will and will not do in your company. And your friendship is not going to give them leverage to overrule you on anything that you've got going on in your business. They will do what you want them to do, or you will sever their involvement with your company. You got to recognize that. You said that you hired her as a writer. She's a publisher. She is part of your marketing firm. So she is responsible for setting up all your social media platforms. She is responsible for any publications, including emails, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Quora, Reddit, Pinterest, anything else that would take your content and post it anywhere. That's her job. So for you to be inconsiderate about her doing her job, you're not appreciating the effort that she's putting into the success of your company, where she has no equitable stake in this outside of what you're paying her by the hour to get this shit done, if you're even paying her to get this shit done. Now, if part of her role of marketing your company, she hires somebody to do something that is in line with marketing and the shit goes bad, that's on her, but it is also on you. You let her do it without vetting a person. She could have picked the guy up, but before the person got the first paycheck, because she is part of marketing, she is not part of financing. You was supposed to step in and you was supposed to vet that situation and make sure that the product was being produced the way you and your silent partner wanted it to be produced. Ultimately, what it sounds like to me is that your friend stepped up and overachieved for you, made a bad business call, because just like you failed with Fiverr, she failed with Fiverr, and you're now disappointed with her because she did the exact same thing that you did, but you didn't walk that walk with her and say, nope, I had this experience with Fiverr before, it didn't work out, let's find somebody from somewhere else, right? That's your failure. Now, you blew up on your friend said, fuck the shit, I'm out, because you weren't putting in the effort that she was putting in to make your company successful. Your solid partner wasn't putting in the effort. Whatever capital they put into the situation, they put it in there for you to do the work. You brought your friend in, your friend started doing the work, and then you didn't appreciate your friend. So your friend said, fuck it, you can do this by yourself. And now you're disappointed in your friend because you thought your friend was going to take your verbal abuse and ride that wave with you. And you're going to be successful because this is your business. But she's an employee. She's only getting paid by the hour. She does not have any equitable stake in your company. So this is where I say you were being a bitch to your friend, and that was inappropriate. You don't have to like the decisions that she made, but you are supposed to be able to explain to her that you made the same mistake before, it didn't work out well. And now that y'all have lost a decent quantity of capital that you cannot legally take out of her paycheck, it is an investment opportunity. If you want to make her a partner where you give her some of your shares, where she can invest in your company and be an equitable stake shareholder in your company, where now she can like kind of recoup what you lost by paying into the pot and having an ownership share and having a decision-making share, now she can put her money on the line to make these bad decisions, where the three of y'all, the silent partner, you and her, all have some type of stake in the game. Now, I don't know how much your shares were divided between you and your silent partner, but if your silent partner got 20% or less, you might have 80% or more of your company still under your belt. As long as you maintain 51% authority, you can get 30% to your friend for the cost of her reimbursing you for the financial loss that happened with the deal. I know some people are going to say that that's stupid. Why are you going to give them shares for losing you money? Well, if you sell her shares in the company And those shares that you sold her goes towards reimbursing the financial decision-making loss. You've got money to make that financial decision again. The company itself took a financial loss, but taking on another investor will repay the company for the financial loss. And if the investor is willing to pay into the pot, the cost of the loss, that's just like if you crash a car in a test drive, but you bought the car, the dealership doesn't lose. If she invested $10,000 on a subcontracted person, and that person fucked up, and she's going to put $10,000 into the business and get 30% shares of the business, you didn't lose. But now that she's $10,000 invested, she can't fuck this up, right? So what should you do now? Because you're dwelling on the fact that it didn't go according to plan twice, and you lost your friend. She's not going to help you with this anymore. The investor is still looking for a return. You have to produce. So you got to pick yourself up by the bootstraps and do one or two things. Get you another investor, apologize to your friend, hire her back, make her a shareholder by having her invest in the company, recoup some of your losses, and then y'all work together on this shit instead of leaving it all on her shoulders. Because she's supposed to be the PR person. She's not supposed to be the recruiter. So if you were not recruiting, that's your failure as the founder. And you need to step up and do your part. Because if it wasn't all her, you would have recruited on this person before you start putting this shit into action. That makes more sense. Otherwise, you're about to go under, because if you don't start producing product, your investor is going to be wanting their return. And if they don't get their return, you're going to have to reimburse them with interest, and you don't have it. So think about that. Instead of letting it flop, fix it. All right, let's go ahead and touch base on the next one.
My mom's boyfriend is being accused of SA and being a creep. My mom's boyfriend is being accused of SA via his own daughter, and my mom has continuously made excuses for him for almost 8 months. His daughter told my sister, and my sister told our mom, but when his daughter is asked about it, she backtracks and says she never says that, but is still going to say that he does these things. My mom is so love blind that now her boyfriend has convinced her that it's not true. And now my mom is accusing my sister of being a liar to try and break them up. My mom is now on a mission to convince everyone that my sister is lying. I'm assuming in hopes that we will all miraculously like her boyfriend again. Even though I've already told her whether the accusations come out to be true or false, I still don't want to be around him at all and want nothing to do with him. I have known this man for 6 years, and from the day I've met him, he has always gave me a weird feeling. My sister and I have told our mom about how we feel over and over and over again, and she just makes excuses for him and said we're not going to bully her into not dating him. I am now at the point where my boundaries are very set, and as far as I'm concerned, he does not exist because I'm so tired of having the same argument, and I've probably told her over 20 times 90% of our problems would go away if she was not with him. My sister is hurt because she's being accused of lying by our own mother when she's just trying to do the right thing and just wants to have a mom again. I've advised her to stop sharing the accusations by his daughter if she's just going to keep going back on it, or she needs to start screenshotting the messages, because it's not fair that she's being made out to look like a fool, while my mom's boyfriend and his daughter get to do whatever they want. What would you do in this situation? Should we continue to argue to try to convince my mom? Should my sister do what I did and just set clear boundaries and pretend he's not around?
I think that you're being ridiculous. So here's an issue, because let's start off with when it's easy for a female to make an assault claim against a male, even if it's not true, and destroy the man's life. The closest thing to that is when men accuse women of sleeping around. No matter how much you say it didn't happen, nobody's going to believe it, right? And the fact is that if his daughter is using this as a ploy to break up her dad and your mom, and you guys are fussing and arguing with your mom for 6 years, trying to force your mom to break up with her dad, at the end of the day, none of y'all are respecting the adults. Now, I understand that parents are supposed, this is one of the reasons why men don't date women with children, because the children are a problem. Okay, it's not just the mom, because a lot of the times moms with bad attitudes are a huge issue when it comes down to disciplining disruptive children. But more often than not, the children are the problem in a single mom relationship. Now, the issue that we have here is that his daughter is making an accusation that she's not willing to stand on in a group setting. If she's not willing to report her father, you got to let that shit go. Because if she's going to tell your sister so that your sister can tell your mom so that your mom can do nothing about it, your sister is not being made out as a liar to your mom because the sister is, or his daughter is lying to your sister. The issue is that you and your sister, who have never experienced the complaint, are now trying to force your mom to not date the guy because his daughter provided information that has not been verified. If you've never liked the guy because you were raised in a single parent household, you're going to have bias against a man stepping into the house because you are comfortable with an all-female household. You're not going to be open to this man being a positive involvement in your household. So your bias is not going to allow you to accept anything other than he must leave. You're going to claim that 90% of your problems in your family would be better if he was not there. But the truth of the matter is that the 90% of the problems in your family right now are the kids. So if the man wasn't there, mom would be unhappy, but the kids would be fine. So what you're saying is that you would prefer your mother to be miserable until you go to college because that's the life that you're used to. I think that that's fair to mom. I think that you should be able to try to find a way to reasonably exist with the man as long as he's not doing you anything. As long as he's not doing your sister anything. Now, if this was a situation where he was saying and doing things inappropriate to you, saying or doing anything appropriate to your sister, then I would say, no, y'all should have jumped him, maced him, did all kind of stuff, reported him, all this stuff, and really took some action. But under the fact that you're hearing a rumor, and the rumor is not supported by the person that's providing the rumor, and nothing has happened to you for 6 years. I'm sitting over here wondering, like, what is your problem? To fix your relationship with your mother, you need to be more supportive of your mother's ability to be happy within reason, and your ability to interact with this dude appropriately within reason, and your ability to protect your sister while your sister is able to interact with this person appropriately within reason. Now, a lot of times people call boundaries when they're actually just being dicks. But truth be told, if you're ignoring his existence, you're being rude and disrespectful to an adult who has done you nothing, and you're going to claim that that is your boundary. Ignoring his existence is rude when he has done you anything. That is not an appropriate and effective boundary. An appropriate and effective boundary is not being in a room alone with him, like him coming and tucking you in bed at night when you're in your PJs. You can set that as a standard. Don't come in there. Him entering the bathroom when you're in there taking a shower. That's an appropriate scenario. Draw the line there, right? You don't come outside of your room in anything other than full dress. So if you're dressed in your lingerie and stuff because you're just running to the bathroom real quick, you need to draw a line and not do that either, right? Those are appropriate boundaries. But not acknowledging the existence of another human being, that's not a boundary. That is being disrespectful. You should be able to interact appropriately. Y'all should be able to have family picnics together. Y'all should be able to have family game night together. You might actually grow to like it. Funny thing, as bad as you treat this guy, in his mind, he's got 3 daughters. And the fucked up part about this is that no matter how bad you treat this guy, when you call mommy and say boyfriend did X, Y, and Z, your mom's boyfriend is going to go and beat up your boyfriend on your behalf, even though you don't want to have nothing to do with him. He will go to jail for you, even though you don't want to have nothing to do with him. And I think that you should rethink your position. I strongly think you should. But women should stop demonizing the existence of men just because they exist. I'm not saying that all men are saints, but I am definitely saying that you've got a lot more heroes in the male gender than what you actually give credit for. And you don't want to value a man until he's come to your rescue. But why are you going to force men to be ostracized by your expectations and female society until he has put his life and freedom aligned for you? You should worship the fact that you have a bunch of people who don't know your name, who will take a bullet for you and go to prison for you. And you should be able to make sure that they know that you value them, because as long as there's 5 men in your area, 3 of them will die for you just because you're a woman. And under that observation, you should treat men with more respect than what you do, especially the children. Because most men with a moral code will die for the kids, male or female, before they die for the woman. So as a little girl, from now until the time that you're an adult, you've got men that will lay their lives down for you. They'll run into a burning building for you. They'll jump on a grenade for you. Come on now. And you should not take advantage of that. You should appreciate and value that the way you thank your troops after fighting for your country and coming back and living on the street and not having stable housing. You need to be able to treat men better. Okay? And ultimately, women, that is an investment, because the better you treat men, guess what? The better men treat you. More often than not, the only time that a man is valued is after he's dead. We can speak so highly of the dude now that he's dead. Well, while he was alive, nobody gave a shit about him. Right? And I think that that's wrong. I think that women should rethink their position. Go to some therapy. Get rid of some of the trauma that you got going on. And then figure out a way to interact with show the value to the men that you expect men to show to you. Women dress up, scantily clad outfits, so that men can tell them how attractive they are every day. Okay? Hundreds of thousands of times a day on social media, you're modeling all of these clothes, and men can tell you how cute you look. Ladies, why don't y'all jump on social media and tell men how much you appreciate them being alive, so that they can get shot at a Trump rally to keep you from getting got by the sniper? What about that? When a man dies to protect a woman, we say that's what he's supposed to do. Not thank you for what you did. Right? When a man gets beat up because somebody's trying to steal her purse, that's what he's supposed to do. Should have fought harder. Not thank you for what you did. You know, when a man gets hit by a car to keep a woman from getting hit by a car, that's what he's supposed to do. Or worse, let's sue him because I sprained my ankle, but I didn't die in a car crash. Right? Not thank you for what you did. Man starts doing CPR on you, you get a heart attack, passed out or whatever, you almost died. He resuscitates you, keeps you stable, gets the paramedics, bring you to the hospital, and now you're living, and you sue him for assault because he touched your chest in order to give you CPR. Not thank you for saving my life. I'm going to take a legal action against you and get money from you because you touched my chest. Y'all need to start finding a way to value men more than what you do. Okay? Instead of choosing the bear that will maul you, choose the man that will sacrifice his life for you and get mauled by the bear on your behalf. And until y'all get the trauma out of y'all lives, where y'all can choose the man over the bear, y'all really don't need to be socializing in the dating pool at all. You shouldn't have male best friends. You shouldn't have males in a friend zone. You shouldn't have boyfriends. You shouldn't have husbands. Y'all should be nuns in a monastery somewhere, learning how to cope with your trauma, so that when you do interact with men, you fucking appreciate them. Okay? But this particular dynamic, I listened to everything you had to say, and you have not pointed out anything that the dude did wrong. He's not a registered offender. He's never been convicted. And this is just a rumor inside of the family that is not even proven inside of the family. Nobody's even willing to call the police and press charges on him. Y'all need to stop. If you're 17, 18 years old, get your job and move out. You don't like mama dating this dude, move out. Move out, go live on campus. Don't mess up your mama's relationship with this new dude because you're used to mama being single. Your parents should not spend their entire life after your father's gone alone and single because of you. They should be alone and single because of their bad choices. It is what it is. A single mom should be a single mom because mom doesn't know how to make good choices. A single mom should not be a single mom because the children are dictating terms. That should never be the case. The dependent should never dictate terms for the provider, whether it's a single mom providing for the kids or the husband providing for the wife. The dependent should never dictate terms for the provider. Should never be that way. All right, let's go ahead and touch base on the next one.
Do you ever want to blow up your marriage or life?
Oh,
Is
God.
this normal aging?
Hell
Advice welcome. My question, is the desire to blow up your life a normal aging / relationship occurrence? Should I blow up my life? Have you ever thought about it? Am I just selfish and feeling unsettled? Is this normal? I'm 34F, married, 35M, and the solo earner. No kids. I basically raised my little sisters, so feel like I've been there, done that, and my husband had a similar experience. The significant majority of our marriage, I have worked full-time and sometimes X2 jobs to support us. And no, this was not what we originally agreed on. Although now, I'd say I've accepted it and I'm mostly cool with it. Before we get started, here's what you need to know. I'm a super joyful and silver lining type of person. It's hard to get me down, which often leads to me overseeing the good things. I'm essentially a cheerleader type personality. My husband is a cool guy, musician, coffee house kind of guy. I'm very driven and career motivated. He's been trying to find himself the whole time I've known him, but he's not lazy per se. He's unbelievably smart, but no drive. He's not a gamer. He just reads a lot. The majority of our marriage, he hasn't had a job and I have equals resentment. We've moved 3x in the last 8 years. Hard to keep friends. I do love my husband and find him attractive. 8 years married. I love spending time with him as well. This is the best our relationship has ever been, but I'm unsure this is what I want. I've regretted not leaving my husband, which has almost happened 3 separate times. I want to be clear. My husband is a lovely, wonderful person. He's living proof that people can change. Therefore, my issues may lie with myself, but I can't tell, so here I am. In addition to being parentified, I grew up isolated, wasn't allowed to socialize outside of approved circles. With a narcissistic mom, we haven't talked in almost 15 years, and it took significant healing to recover from that toxicity. I've always felt I needed community, and lack it. After bachelor's college, I developed a solid friend group, where I got to know my husband. This circle was the most community I've ever felt I've had. Honestly, we started dating because we were close friends, and I'd be lying if I didn't say that there was a part of me that thought if we stayed together it would cement me into a community. I was, and still am, a decent commitment phobe, and when he wanted to get married, I thought if there ever was someone I'd marry, it'd probably be him. He's kind and loves me, and I know he'll be there for me no matter what. Literally the day after I said that to myself, he proposed, and I kid you not, my answer was yes. Time when I almost left. Engaged. I discovered he'd been lying to me about something significant, not worth talking about here. That shook my trust, and I almost ended things. But it felt like failure. And I ain't no quitter. Plus, a huge part of me felt I gave my word to someone, and I should follow through. Such naivety. So we worked through things and got married. Time 2, I almost left. COVID happened 2 years into marriage. My husband, who was only working part-time, a job he got after my nagging, stopped working entirely. He also changed for the worst. He became more negative, started drinking, and became mean. I almost left him, first almost divorce, but wanted to say I did my most before divorce. Ultimatum. And he improved, decreased drinking, became kinder, and got some mental health help. Well, soon after our marriage started improving, that friend group imploded in a big way, mostly due to my deconversion from Christianity to agnostic/atheism. It's harsh to say I was ostracized, but I kind of was. This experience actually made our marriage stronger. He also lost a lot of friends during this implosion, and he was super supportive of me, even during his hardship. Obviously, there is an aspect there where I felt like he was basically my only community. Figured it was the perfect time to transition into getting my master's, because it required we moved out of state. The master's degree I obtained was very time-intensive and required that I wouldn't work while obtaining it. My husband and I had previously clearly agreed that he would work while I was getting my degree to support us. During grad school, our marriage was healing, but then right at the end of my degree was the closest I've been to divorcing. Time 3, I almost left. Master's took me 3 years. It was a hard program, but I also made lots of new friends. He dragged his feet in working at the beginning, had a job for a bit, then stopped working and essentially was deceptive, mostly unintentionally, I think, about how much he was working and how much money we had. Figured out we were going broke fast when I needed to start requesting higher loans to cover costs and realized the math wasn't adding up. My degree was so intense, I pretty much never had time to look at finances. Maybe 6 to 12 months before my graduation, I did the math and realized how dire the situation was. I was livid and felt so betrayed. Another ultimatum. Discussed a separation while I finished school. He also at this time was going through some pretty severe depression and drinking again. I unfortunately just did not have the capacity to tolerate or support this betrayal/depression period. While I was in the process of graduating, I was also debating divorce. We had a few very serious discussions/ultimatums where I told him I was considering leaving him. He went completely sober after this and improved immensely. We were in lots of debt, and after I've worked my buns off before my master's and now during school, and now was anticipating working hard after. So I got a job very rural because the money was better. We moved states again. I'm generally pretty disappointed in myself that I stayed the second time. We moved to the new state. I cried a lot because I was pretty certain our marriage was over, and now I was in this rural location with no community. So I went against my personal boundaries and told myself to give it a year. So now we're a little over 2 years in at the new job and location. I got a promotion, been slowly making new friends, again, made some significant progress in our debt and future retirements. He had a brief job for 3 months and is again not working. I finally decided I was at peace with him not working this time around, since I'm finally making enough to sustain us and he does everything else. He does all the cooking and cleaning and takes care of our animals. He's overall such a kind and considerate husband, but he's just never been super affectionate. I know he's in love with me, don't get it twisted, but it also sometimes feels like I can never count on him. Our marriage is the best it's ever been. I'm genuinely happy most of the time, but I'm always Miss Positivity, so it's hard to tell sometimes what I'm actually feeling. Last year I knew for sure I was unhappy, and we talked about it. He said he thought I just needed to give the place here more time and also improved all issues I was having in our relationship except working. I was in a better place at the time and didn't want a divorce. Contentment has been a really good thing to cultivate and learn. Now to today. I am recently working with a new coworker, only a few months, who I officially have a crush on. I know I'm not planning any perusing a relationship or anything like that, but it's been eye-opening seeing where I'm lacking in my marriage and personal goals. But it's also made me think, am I unhappy? This is not a new feeling. I was having this epiphany last year as well. This is not where I want to be in my life in general. I don't want to be in this town or in this house. I want to be in a larger city or closer to friends. I want to travel and do things. I've always wanted to do lots of different stuff, but never could cause I was always working to support us or having to sacrifice vacation time for his family or needing to work to make up for his lack thereof, etc., etc., etc. In general, I love my husband, but I've always thought of him as an anchor. Even before we were married, he grounds me and in many ways is good for me, but he also always feels like he's dragging me down or holding me back. To be fair, I have said since I first considered divorce during COVID that if I want to do things, then I'm just going to do them. He's super supportive and down for whatever I want to do. He's just got zero motivation for his life or even our future. And I can't blame my feelings about being stuck on him entirely. But also, isn't he a huge contributing factor? Anyways, I want to move and he wants to stay. And now I'm feeling alive again around someone new. Again, he's just really an analogy/comparison. Nothing more. Shouldn't I take some time, maybe to figure out what I want? But ick about blowing my life up? But there's a huge part of me that does want to just F***** it and blow it up. Ick, please tell me if you've ever felt this way. Or if you did, or didn't decide to blow your life up for seemingly no reason. Or if you have amazing advice about relationships. I'd love to hear it.
All right, I got you. Okay, so yeah, you had a lot to say. You done already fucked your life up 3 times. So here's the problem. You claim that you changed religions, destroyed his whole social network, and after you got rid of all of his friends, y'all moved. Then you decided to go to college. You made friends in college, and then you got this job, and then y'all moved again. Now you're working on this job. You're started to date a dude on a job, whether you admit that or not. And now you want to move again. But this time you want to move without your husband. Ultimately, it's not what you got going on is an egalitarian lifestyle that women don't really want to accept. Is that when you're more successful than your husband and he's the dependent and you're the provider, he's doing all the stuff at the house that a wife doesn't want to do because women believe that that's an oppressive behavior pattern. But he's doing everything at the house that a wife would do, and you're doing everything that a man would do for his wife. And since the roles are 100% reversed, where he's making sure that everything is under control as you're the provider, you're unsatisfied because what you want is for him to do all of that stuff. And you have the ability to quit even if you carry your own job. Since he's not making more money than you, since he's not providing more than what you're providing, you're not satisfied because you grew up in a norm where the man is supposed to do more than the woman financially in a relationship, and that's not what you have. You're working with a guy that's probably been in a company longer than you, probably makes more money than you, makes more decisions on the job you as affection, and you're going to pursue a relationship with this dude because it's new. You spent 8 years with a guy that depends on you instead of spending 8 years with a guy that you depend on. Ultimately, that's the choice that you made, but you can't claim that it's his fault in any level when you accepted 4 years ago, 4, 5, 6 years, because we're talking about COVID. We're talking about 2019, 2020, it's 2026. You knew that he wasn't working in 2019 and it's 2026, and now you want to complain about it. You've made peace with it over the past 8 years, over the past 6 years. Now you want to complain about it. He didn't have a job before you married him. You married him, and now you want to complain about it. You've been married with him for 8 years, dating for, I don't know, 1 to 5 years before you got married. He ain't never had no job. You got to college. First of all, when your husband tells you to take out larger loans, if he told you that, because he didn't have to tell you, it just could be that there's certain bills that aren't getting paid and you're taking out larger student loans because you know these need to get paid. You're going to lie and say that you didn't know that there wasn't enough money going around when you're taking out larger loans for 3 years. You take out a loan every 3 months when you're going to college, whether it's undergrad or grad school. And it's based off of how much you need for class and how much you need for the house. So if you recognize that you're taking out an extra $15,000 to cover the cost of a house for the next 3 months, you recognize that there's an extra $5,000 a month worth of shit that needs to be paid for. If that's the cost of the house, what money is he spending on the house? Clearly none, which ultimately means that you're paying for the house with your master's program. It is what it is, but that's part of what you take student loans out for, is to cover your standard of living, room and board. Now, could he have done better? Yes, but part of his depression and part of his drinking is going to be his lack of purpose in life. He is not your provider. He is not doing anything that he should be doing as a man. He's carrying the back end, the brunt work, you know, but what society would expect him to do as a man, he's not doing that for whatever reason. And he's going to be depressed about that because he doesn't have the duty and purpose in life that most men have. And that's going to have him spiral. He's also going to have the insecurity that in spite of his spiraling, you're going to college, you're being successful, he's not successful, which makes him recognize how much of a loser he is, right? And then you're staying with him. You're probably the best thing that's ever happened to him, and he's going to do the best that he can to keep you, but you're going to believe that you can do better because you can just find a man with a job. Ultimately, you married a man, you gave him 8 years, you should give him another 10, 20 years and do it under the observation that he's in the domestic role of being your dependent, doing everything that a dependent is supposed to do, and you're in the masculine role as the leader, doing everything that the leader is supposed to do. Now, under this dynamic, men don't expect their wives to have jobs. They take care of everything. The wife takes care of everything at the house and covers the spread. You've taken over the man's role. You're going to take care of everything and cover and make sure that your husband covers the spread. So you're going to be the breadwinner. You're going to do what men normally do in their relationships. This is what you probably was taught by your mom, to be the leader of your house. Be the fucking leader of your house. Stop complaining about this shit. He's not cheating on you. He's not abusing you in any way, shape, or form. He's supporting your ability to be successful. He's not even complaining about the dude that you're gushing over at the job. Just take care of your family, right? This is the part of marriage where for better or for worse comes in at. The for worse part is that you didn't marry what you thought you were marrying into. But I mean, fuck, you married into it knowing that he didn't have a job. And he stayed not having a job after you got married. So, I mean, finish the job. Finish what you started. You said, I ain't no quitter. All right, well, you're 8 years into it. This is the best that the marriage has ever been, right? You said that yourself. If it's now better 8 years later than what it was 8 years ago, why are you going to leave now? Because you found a man with money. I don't think that's a smart decision. I think that you've got a stable family. Stay where you are. You want to move again, but moving again is going to do what? You say, well, you want to be close to friends. What friends? You want to be close to the toxic friends that are going to tell you to leave your husband, get a messy divorce? I just want you to understand, because for any woman that thinks that what I'm saying is ridiculous, I just want you to understand that the divorce laws are not gender exclusive. So if you are a lawyer, and you're working for a firm and you're making $70,000 a year and your husband is unemployed and y'all don't have a prenup and y'all been together for 8 years and you divorce him, I swear to God, sweetheart, you're going to be giving him alimony. So that's the way the law works. The person that doesn't have a job will be subsidized by the person that has a job to aid them in maintaining the standard of living that they had while y'all were together. So if you're living in a class lifestyle right now under your income exclusively and you divorce your husband, you're going to have to pay him alimony. So it makes more sense. This is why men don't divorce their wives all the time. It makes more sense, instead of you divorcing him because you can't find a value in his lack of employment, do what men do. Stay married to your husband. Because it's cheaper for you to stay married to your husband. He's not causing a problem in the house. Stay married to your husband. If you don't have kids for him, you might not want to have kids for him. But if you do have kids for him, you don't need maternity leave because he can stay at home. You stay at home dad. So let's be real. I think that your major objection right now is that your relationship doesn't fit the traditional roles from the 1940s. You're disappointed in that, and you are hoping for a traditional relationship while having the modern egalitarian authority, and that's not what you have. You have a modern egalitarian relationship where you are the authority, but you also have the responsibility of being the provider. He's the protector, you're the provider. I think it is your responsibility to own the position that you've worked for. Don't run from it. Don't move. Stay where you are and facilitate a good relationship in the neighborhood that you're in. Build a culture around the place that you're at, and just like kind of plant your roots. You're probably going through a midlife crisis where you believe that something will change if you like blow your life up. But all it's going to do is force you to start over. It's going to, the next man that you get, it might be way worse than the man that you have now. And your finances are going to be destroyed because you're going to have all of the student debt, alimony for your ex-husband, and then the new husband or the new boyfriend. It just doesn't work out for you. Okay. Stay where you are, work on it, make it better, make it something that you like. Even if you nag your husband some more for him to get another part-time job, or if you start coming to the show on a regular basis, I can give you a lot of information in the membership where you can have your husband start up a side job that he likes to do, where he can get paid to stay at home and still be able to generate a larger income, where he could, by being productive, you can find a way for him to actually value what he does, where he can start bringing in extra money, and then you'll be proud of him for being an income driver at the house and get paid off of the computer. But don't just walk away from him because he doesn't want to work for somebody else. And I don't think that that's beneficial for your relationship. Now, that's all I got for you guys for tonight. And we still finished early. Damn. Now, remember, we're live 7 nights a week. Tomorrow, we're going to be starting pretty much on time because I know that we got a lot of stuff to cover, and I do believe I got a contract shortly thereafter. So I want you guys to make sure that you come around 11:30 Eastern Standard Time and try to see what we're going to be doing to tee things off, because we're going to be talking about the tax benefits for the wealthy, the student loan payback situation that we got going on, and then the automakers change. So we're going to be talking about all that stuff tomorrow. First thing I'm going to say is, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking ladies to make it make sense. Ladies, please make it make sense. Fellas, I gave you all this information to make you guys higher value men, because after you finish working on your financial life, I got to give you guys information to work on your personal life, because your personal decision-making skills directly impact your income. So this isn't about just making you a higher value man from your income. It's also making you a higher value man from your decision-making skills. I recommend that everybody takes the time to prioritize the things that are inside of their control, find the things that you don't like, and then improve them. And fixing them, just like I told this lady, fixing it doesn't mean running away from the situation. It is navigating the situation. Because when you find certain things inside of your life that are outside of your control, you have to navigate around them so that you can have the happy life that you have. Preferably with the network that you built, right? So ladies, while this is a male-driven podcast from a male's perspective, you too can make yourself a higher value woman by prioritizing your 20 and 30-year plan, reverse engineering that's what you need to do today. Pay attention to the signs. Pay attention to the suitor that you have with the personality and characteristics that they have, the drive, ambition, dedication, motivation, admiration, and integrity to achieve their goals. Because if this lady here, if she married a man that had no goals, he plateaued before she married him, that's what you wanted. Don't run from it now. But if you knew back then that you had drive that he wasn't a part of, you should have not gotten married to him from the beginning. But now that you married him and stuck with him for 8 years, give it another 20. See what changes. Right? But if you find that you have a right partner that has long-term satisfaction goals, and you have long-term satisfaction goals, and you guys can work together to accomplish each other's goals, you guys can find yourselves more successful early on. And like I tell you guys on a regular basis, that two people can make it to $1 million faster than one. But it requires you guys to work together to do that. So I appreciate everybody coming to the show. Special shout out to Daniel. Special shout out to Steven, FX Trader, Michael, Mateo. I appreciate you diving in and giving your 2 cents tonight. A special shout out to OG Kicks and Unc Andy for showing love to the show. I want to thank you guys for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys tomorrow night.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living,